In this video, we're going to look at some of the options for Word. The options are found by going to the File tab up here and way down at the bottom selecting Options. And it'll bring up a dialog box that looks like this. You've got a bunch of tabs over here on the left. Every time you select a tab on the left, you get some different options over here on the right side. We'll just start at the top here with General. And we need to scroll up to the top. So we've got a few options here. The mini toolbar is if you drag the mouse over some text, a little short toolbar with some common options will pop up there, like things for changing the font style, changing the font color, stuff like that. So if that's kind of handy, you don't have to go up to the ribbon. You can just use that miniature toolbar, which is right next to where you selected the text. There's an enable live preview option, which you probably want turned on. If you go up to your menu, up to your ribbon, and change things up here, actually don't change them. If you just pause the mouse over them, it will do a live preview for you without having to click on it and select it. So you can see what it's going to look like without actually having to make the selection. So that can save you a little bit of time. And let me see. The rest of this stuff probably don't need to worry too much about. This should have your username and your initials in it. If you collaborate with somebody on a document, this is the information that will show up to indicate what changes you've made in the document. You can mess with the Office background a little bit here, which is pretty insignificant really. And you can change the theme. We've got a couple of different options here, and I have colorful selected. There's a display tab over here on the left side, and most of the stuff in here I think you probably will want to leave the way they are. There's a proofing over here, and we've got, here is one option I think that not a lot of people may know about. If you put something in uppercase letters, it does not get checked by the spelling checker. And the reason is it assumes that if it's in uppercase letters that it's probably an acronym, which would not be in the dictionary anyway. So just be extra careful if you put uppercase text into your document. Make sure that you spell everything correctly, because Word will not tell you if you've misspelled something. We've got some AutoCorrect options here, and if you click on that, it brings up another dialog box. And we've got 5 tabs here. We'll take a look at some of these options. The AutoCorrect, if you hold the shift key down a little bit too long, it will automatically change that second letter back to a lowercase letter for you, so that's kind of handy. Capitalize first letter of sentences. Most people probably want that on most of the time. I have it turned off because I put a lot of computer code in my documents and I don't want those necessarily capitalized. Capitalize the first letter of table cells. That's one I don't always want to have turned on either. And then capitalize names of days, so it'll do that by default, and corrects accidental usage of the caps lock key. So if you have the caps lock on and you type a complete word, it will put the first letter in lowercase letters and then the rest of it in uppercase letters, which is exactly the opposite of what you want. And so it will basically fix that for you and turn off the caps lock. There's also a feature here that will replace text as you type. If you scroll through the list here, there's a lot of stuff there. And most of what it is just like common words that are misspelled. So apparently a lot of people turn the E and the I around on the word believe or believes. So if you turn the E and the I around, it will automatically correct it for you. Whatever goes on the left-hand side will be replaced whatever is on the right-hand side. So a common misspelling, it's not actually misspelling, it's more mistyping of the word the, is T-E-H. And if you do that, you can see down here, it'll automatically replace it with T-H-E. You can also put your own in here. Okay, so if I want to, if I'm frequently using the term Briarcliff in my Word documents, which I frequently am, then I can just do BC and tell it to replace it with Briarcliff. And every time I type a capital B and a capital C, it'll replace it with Briarcliff. Now, let's try another one. Let's try US. Let's say every time I do that, I want United States to appear. Well, US is actually the word us, and so it's not going to recognize that. And you don't want every time you type the word us to have it replaced by United States. So if you put it in uppercase letters, then it will only replace US with United States if you type the US in capital letters. So if it's capital letters, it will only, on the left side, it will only recognize the capital letters to do the replacement. If it's lowercase letters, it'll recognize either one and do the replacement. We've got some math autocorrect up here, which we're not going to worry about. We've got auto format as you type, and it will replace straight quotes with smart quotes. Smart quotes are the ones that curl a little bit instead of being straight up and down. The straight up and down quotation marks look like what you see on your keyboard. They're the same on the left side of the quote as they are on the right side of the quote. These curl a little bit, kind of like this on the left side, and they kind of curl like this over on the right side, kind of like parentheses do. This option is for replacing some fractions, and I think there's only a few of them, like 1/2 and 1/4 and 3/4 maybe, that will convert into a character. So instead of looking like this, it'll look like this. So if you turn that on, it'll do those replacements for you. This is an old way of doing bold and italic, I think, going back to some like really old word processors. And if you'd rather, instead of typing Control B, which isn't all that hard to do, if you'd rather type an asterisk and then whatever you want, and then an asterisk at the end of the bolding, it will replace this with bold text in your document. I've got this one turned off. You can have internet and network paths replaced with hyperlinks, or not replaced with, but have hyperlinks added to them. You can have ordinals. Take the S and the T here and make it into a superscript instead of like it appears right here. And you can have hyphens replaced with a single dash character. So if you put 2 hyphens in a row and then type something, when you get to the end of that second word, it'll replace it with a dash character. Automatic bulleted list allows you to type an asterisk instead of actually going up to the ribbon and selecting something. So you do an asterisk and then a space, and it'll make a bulleted list for you. Over here, you can do the same thing with numbered lists. You can type a number and then a period or a right parenthesis or a space or a tab or whatever, and it'll automatically start a numbered list for you. Border lines are horizontal lines that go all the way across. We'll talk about that when we talk about auto replace in a little bit. And format at the beginning of a list item like the one before it, that's something you probably want turned on. This one, set left and first indent with tabs and backspaces. That's a default that I think is turned on by default. And what that means is if you hit the tab key at the beginning of a line, rather than just putting a tab in there and sliding over to the first tab stop, it'll actually change your first line indent for you up on the ruler. And I would rather not have that on, so I've got that one turned off. And we have auto format up here. This kind of looks like it repeats quite a bit of the stuff from the other ones. I'm not sure why they've got that in 2 places. And actions, we're not going to do anything with that. That's if you want to customize some things. So that takes care of the proofing tab. Save tab. The main thing on the Save tab here is to set your auto recovery information right here. And the default is 10. So if you haven't changed this, it'll probably be 10, and every 10 minutes it'll save your document, but that means you could lose 10 minutes of work if your computer froze up on you or something. So I think you want this at 1 all the time. It's not going to slow the computer down at all on today's computers. Auto recover file location. This is where you can specify that it will go. Normally you don't need to change that. So if there is a disaster and you have to recover your document, this is where the document would have been saved. And we have a default file location, so if you want most of your stuff to go in like a documents folder like I have here, then you can set that. Language, if you want to do a language other than English, you can select it here. Ease of access, we'll skip over that. Advanced, we've got a whole bunch of stuff here, and it's a pretty long list, and there's not really a whole lot of important stuff in here that we need to go over, so we'll just kind of skip that. Most of it's pretty straightforward. You can customize the ribbon if you want to. By default, this is all the stuff we get on the ribbon up here, but there are other commands that are not up there. Microsoft tries to put the most common ones, but if you'd like to add something to that because there's something you use a lot that Microsoft doesn't think you'll use a lot, you can pick something from over here and add it to one of the sections over here. And if you click on the plus sign, it'll show you everything that's on the on your ribbon. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit, but it'll show you everything that's on the ribbon. So most of these are turned on by default. Draw may not be turned on. That's turned on, I think, if you have a laptop, which is what I'm running on right now. Developer, most people have that turned on. If you want to do macros, you need to turn that on as well. Okay, then we have an option over here for the Quick Access Toolbar. We'll click on that. The Quick Access Toolbar is the commands that are up here. So you can put some commands up there By default, it comes with save and undo and redo. And you can add other ones if you want to. There's also, well, on this one, it's got touch mouse mode if you have a touch screen. And I've added text box. So if there's something you do a lot here, and I put text boxes in documents quite a bit, so I've got that up there. You can find it over here, and you can click add and slide it over here, and you can go the other way as well. And we're not going to look at add-ins or the Trust Center, so that takes care of Word options for this video.